I wanted to give you a heads up about the online lab we had, the histology and the tissues, and what you can expect to see for your practical. And this is mainly because I didn't get to go over any of this with you in person. So I just think it's fair that I kind of give you a heads up on this. So I just have this histology activity pulled up. This is from the module. And basically, what I want you to do, it's very similar to your online, your pre-lab quiz and any of the study materials we've given you. You will see a histology image, and I could ask a number of things about that image. So I could show you this, for example, and just ask, excuse me, what is the name of this tissue? And so you'll just need to be able to know, okay, well, I've got one layer of column-shaped cells, so this must be simple columnar epithelium. And you would be right. What are some other things I could ask? Well, I could ask you specific features about that tissue. And so as you went through and you labeled your lab manual, you'll notice that you had to label specific things on these images. And that's the type of stuff that I want you to be thinking about as well. So for instance, what is the name of this type of cell? And per your studies and what you've already filled in, you would know that's a goblet cell. And then there's some application style questions. Okay, what is this surface here? That's the apical surface. And how do we know it's the apical surface? It's because we know goblet cells open up into the apical surface, which is also called the lumen. Okay, remember the lumen is the center of a tube. What's the opposite side of the apical surface? Here we have the basement membrane. Okay, so that's just an example on that one. Here we, I could say, all right, well, what type of tissue is this? Okay, and then I'd want you to give me that answer. And then other things I could ask for this specific type of connective tissue. Okay, I could say, what type of cells do we have here? Okay, so because this is cartilage, remember we have chondrocytes, cartilage cells. I could ask you what those cells live in, or the spaces those cells are in. Remember, those are the lacuna. And look, we have fibers here, right? What kind of fibers are those? Those stringy, thin fibers, elastic. Hey, that's a big hint as to what kind of cartilage you have. So again, that's a great example for that. Here on this side, you know, okay, what is this specific feature? Okay, well, that's cilia. Here, and we know that cilia is only a part of the ciliated pseudo-stratified columnar epithelium. And as far as the ones that you had to know, that was the only tissue that had cilia. Okay, so as you go through these, I always tell my students it's best to go through these slides and basically max out your knowledge of what you see. Meaning, start with identifying the tissue, and then go through and basically max out. Tell me everything you know about that slide. And if you can do that, you will be prepared for any possible question I could ask on the practical. Lastly, the other thing you'll want to study is that table we had towards the end of the lab manual. And it asked you to know or be able to identify where we would find that tissue in the body. And that is important as well, because that goes along with the whole form follows function theme we have in AP. So for instance, here we have the stratified squamous epithelium. Remember, stratified, many layers, squamous, those scaly shaped cells, and it's an epithelial tissue. And form follows function. Where do we have stratified squamous epithelium? Well, in places that are exposed to high amounts of friction. And it's so that if we slough off or lose these cells up here, we have new ones that will replace it. So it makes sense, therefore, that we would find this type of tissue in places like the esophagus or the epidermis of the skin. So make sure you're also kind of your last bit of information that you review when you go through these slides is where would I find this in the body? And if you think form follows function, okay, we find these tissues in parts of the body because of the functions they perform. It will just make sense, and it's a good way to kind of wrap up your knowledge of this. So let me know if you have any questions on this. I think you guys will do well if you follow my advice and study tissues this way. Happy studying!